Good morning.
Ms. Hassan.
Morning, Chair. Chair, General Khumalo is ready to continue his evidence today.
Thank you. I'm not sure after such a longish break whether I should again have the General take the oath or whether we should just remind him that he's still under his oath. I'm sure he has not forgotten. Good morning, General.
Good morning, Commissioners.
General, you are still under your oath.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Where were we?
One thing, Ms. Hassan, like I did when we started with the General, besides the statement, what do you suggest? Which volume of the annexures do you suggest we should have in front of us immediately?
For this morning, Chair, I would ask that you have two files, statement file and the file with annexures. It's just marked annexures.
Annexures. The one we got today, early this morning. The ones. Okay. That's the statement.
It's
Two.
it's marked annexures, and it has a batch of annexures that are numbered SDK 1 all the way through to about 40 something.
Got it. I've got it. I've got both.
You've got both. Thank you, Chair. You will need at a certain point the additional folder that you were provided, but I will let you get
You'll
there.
indicate when.
Thank you, General Khumalo. Before we were rudely interrupted, we were about halfway through almost of your written statement. We'd stopped just as you had begun dealing with WhatsApp conversations that were retrieved from Mr. Matlala's phone. That evidence has now been covered by Witness X, so we need not cover that ground again. So can I ask you then to turn to page 39 of your statement? And the heading of this section is the events leading to the Gauteng counterintelligence operation and further evidence of infiltration of the criminal justice system. Is that right? You've got that. So when I look at paragraphs 89 to 92, it seems to me that it's quite pivotal, this event that you begin to speak about here, which is the assassination in Vereniging. It seems to be a pivotal moment in the investigation of criminal syndicates. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree, Commissioners.
And can you explain to the Commission why that is?
Thank you, Commissioners. As I explained during my first part of my testimony, that my involvement in this operation was, and it's still twofold. I am the Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence, which is responsible for the Gauteng counterintelligence ops or operation. And I am also the project leader of the political killings task team that played a role in the Gauteng counterintelligence operation. The main part of my testimony under this part or today will be through my role as the Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence, as I'll be talking mostly on the on these Gauteng counterintelligence operations. This is the operation that served as a catalyst of the whole discussion or of my testimony, as evidence has been laid before, that it was as a result of a hit or the murder of Mr. Armand Swart, who was an employee of a Q-Tech company in Vereeniging. According to our investigation, that was a mistaken identity. He was not the intended target, but that is where the whole investigation started, the whole investigation that led to the registration of a counterintelligence project under Gauteng Province of Office of Crime Intelligence. It is this investigation that led then to the arrest of Mr. Molefe later on, after the initial arrest of the hitmen that were arrested hours before the murder of Mr. Swart. Later on, as the investigation was...
You mean hours after? You said hours before.
Hours after the murder of
yes.
Mr. Swart, the hitmen were arrested and the firearms were confiscated that were suspectedly by then used in the commission of that crime. The further investigation then, when then by then, this was just a Gauteng organized crime investigation when the hitmen were arrested. Then as then the investigation progressed, that is when then later on, Mr. Molefe as well as Mr. Madlanga on other related cases. But maybe if I may first confirm that it is Mr. Molefe who was then charged with the killing of Mr. Armand Swart. But I'm introducing Mr. Madlanga because that is when then the cartel started to shape up when we were doing then further investigations.
So is it correct, if I understand your statement, written statement correctly, it's this investigation and your involvement in this investigation that led you to expose and to basically have sight into infiltration by criminals of the criminal justice system. Is that right?
That is very correct, because that started to come up when then we were doing what we normally call in an organized crime investigation, going up the ladder, taking the investigation further. So at the initial stage of the investigation, the role of the involvement of criminal justice system was not clearly visible, other than the fact that one of the hitmen was by then a serving member, a warrant officer in the South African Police Service.
So that you were aware of at the time of the arrest of that officer. But as your investigation went on, more members of the SAPS became exposed. Is that what you're saying?
That is very correct. We have cases, the organized hits or the contract killings that we have investigated and we are still investigating as part of political killings task team. We have picked up that the hit coordinators as well as hit orderers, they have adopted this new way of recruiting the serving members of SAPS to serve as hitmen. So the arrest of a warrant officer Tau as one of the hitmen did not come as a surprise to us with that experience.
So you said a new way of recruiting. What is that? What do you mean by a new way of recruiting members?
So maybe if I can, without wasting much time of the commission, if I can take the commission back to my first parts of my testimony, I had indicated that the recruitment by the organized groups in the form of syndicates or cartel is very targeted. So they will want to have more of their members that have experience or are still serving within the criminal justice system. That includes SAPS.
Okay. Can we turn then to your involvement when you became involved in the Vereniging matter? And can we begin with the letter from the prosecutor? And I believe that was on the 5th of August, 2024, that the prosecutor, this seems to be when you started to get involved. Before you start, can you turn to page 159 of your annexures bundle? And that's SDK 15. SDK 15, page 159.
Yes, I'm there.
And can you just tell the commission what this letter is and what it's about?
Okay, then thank you, commissioners. Maybe with your permission, commissioners, before I get to the annexure as directed by the senior counsel, it will be crucial that I introduce another subject of our further discussion that is contained in paragraph 91 of my statement, introducing another parallel investigation that came as an instruction from the National Commissioner for the same team that we were putting together, also to investigate that case involving the kidnapping of a prominent businessman, Jerry Boshucha. So as the project or this Gauteng counterintelligence operation was moving on, yes, it started with Aman Swart case, but then it was soon after that joined by this investigation of this kidnapping case. I'm introducing it because I'll be talking more about it as I move on with my testimony. But then going back to the annexure on page 59, that is dated the 5th of August, 2024.
Just for purposes of the transcript, 159. You said 59.
Excuse me, Commissioner, page 159.
Thank you.
The annexure is about the letter that is dated the 5th of August, 2024. That was written by the senior state prosecutor who was working together with the investigation team on this case of Aman Swart. That letter was addressed to the immediate commander or supervisor of the investigating officers, which is Brigadier Khopane. It was also addressed to the Deputy Provincial Commissioner, Gauteng, which is General Mbuso Khumalo, also addressed to the Provincial Commissioner Gauteng, which is Lieutenant General Mtombeni, and also addressed to the Deputy National Commissioner of Police at national level, Lieutenant General Sbiya, and the National Commissioner of Police, General Masimola. The letter was with regard to the consent.
Just to pause for a moment there, General. So it was not addressed to you, this letter?
No, it was not addressed to me.
Can I just make a correction on your statement at paragraph 93, Chair? Where it says on 5 August 2024, Senior Prosecutor Ronel Kutsia addressed a letter to me and Brigadier Kopane as the provincial head. That was actually to General Mbuso Khumalo.
Indeed, Commissioners, that is correct. I'm not sure whether it's an omission or it's a typo or it's a mistaken identity.
Or a ballistics typo.
We have that. We have that as Khumalos, that we are confused sometimes, and the statement it's written, or it reads like the letter was addressed to me, followed by Brigadier Kopane, whereas the Khumalo, that is one of the addressees, is Major General Mbuso Khumalo, who is the Deputy Provincial Commissioner, Gauteng Crime Detection.
Thank you. So what was the purpose of this letter?
The purpose of the letter was for the Senior State Prosecutor to share, firstly, to share with the management of South African Police at all levels regarding the risks that the investigating officers were facing in terms of their safety as the result of this case that they were investigating and the Senior State Prosecutor was prosecuting. So the letter is listing the reasons that made the Senior State Prosecutor to believe that the lives of the investigating officers were at risk. So it was recommending or requesting an agent assistance by powers that be at provincial as well as national level to ensure that proper measures are put in place to protect both the investigation as well as the investigating officers.
Thank you. Perhaps you could read paragraph 16 of the prosecutor's letter, bearing in mind that it refers to witness A and B.
Reading
Paragraph 16, yes.
Reading paragraph 16 on record, it reads, you are requested to urgently arrange for the safeguarding of especially witness A and B. There is a real danger that their lives are in extreme danger, and these organized criminals will do everything in their ability to try and destroy evidence against them and or to seriously derail the trial. It has just now become so much easier with Tau, referring to the former warrant officer who was part of the arrested hitmen, having unlimited access to technology and his syndicate friends and family.
And to be clear for the record, witness A and B that you referred to are the two witnesses who have given evidence in this commission.
That is correct. During my testimony, Commissioners, I'll be referring to them either as investigating officers or as witness A and B.
Thank you. So after this letter is sent by the prosecutor, at paragraph 97, you say that on 8 August, Colonel Ntuli was instructed to conduct a threat and risk assessment. Can you first begin by explaining who Colonel Ntuli is and who issued that instruction?
Thank you, Commissioners. The normal standard operational procedure within our crime intelligence environment, because the threat and risk assessment are one of our responsibilities. If we can refer back to the addresses where the letter was sent to, there is no reflection of anyone who is within crime intelligence. So the requester will send the letter to the immediate commander of the member or the members involved, as well as the provincial and national top management. So in this case, after the letter was received by the provincial commissioner Gauteng, he then channeled it to the provincial head of crime intelligence in Gauteng province, which is Major General Likalakala, who then assigned that investigation of this threat and risk to a Colonel Ntuli, who is the commander of counterintelligence investigations within Gauteng province, who was then instructed by not one of the addresses, but by the Major General Likalakala, the provincial head of crime intelligence, to conduct that investigation.
What does that investigation involve?
Without maybe exposing the whole methodology, which is mostly of covert nature, I will say it looks at the individual as well as the all types of security around an individual or a subject of investigation, starting from where the individual lives to where the individual works and to the lifestyle itself, as well as all other people that are interacting with the subject of investigation. It's a process where after all those are identified and the information collected, there will be a thorough analysis that will be checking the facts collected against the threats and vulnerabilities as identified then from the requester to determine the likelihood of that, because by that time, it is looked at as a potential risk. That analysis will be done then to determine the likelihood or the unlikelihood of that potential risk then to materialize. That is what, in short, in brief, the process is all about.
Thank you, General. And so what was the finding of this particular investigation, threat and risk assessment?
The finding of this whole investigation on the threat and risk assessment against the investigators on this case was found to be, the risk level was found to be high, which is the highest level of risk assessment.
And if I can just ask you to turn to page 162 of the annexures bundle. So that's SDK 16. 162. Is this the affidavit by the colonel who did the TRA?
That is correct, Commissioners. It happened that during a bail application of one of the accused, the need came for the threat and risk assessment that was done to be used or included then in the state case. But then because the threat and risk assessment report itself, it's a classified document with all the details that would not want it to be made public. Then the decision was taken that the Colonel Ntuli, who was doing the physical threat and risk assessment, submits the statement that confirms without details the threat and risk assessment that he conducted.
So when did he conclude his TRA? When was it signed?
The threat and risk assessment itself was concluded during August, and it was signed off on the 16th of August.
So the fact that this affidavit was signed on the 17th of May 2025 is not a reflection of when the TRA was conducted, but because this was for the purposes of the bail application, it was at a later date.
Yes, Commissioners, that's what I was explaining, that the affidavit was done way after the threat and risk assessment was concluded. It was just meant for bail opposition.
Thanks. So, General, the next two paragraphs summarize what witnesses A and B were to come and provide evidence onto this commission, and we don't need to traverse that. It's there in your statement, and the witnesses have now testified. Can we please go to paragraph 101 of your statement, because this is where you say, this is where you became involved. After the threat and risk assessment was concluded, you were approached for assistance. Can you explain that, please? Who approached you and when?
Thank you, Commissioners. As it's also part of our standard operational procedures, the provincial head will receive the final, according to their level, the final threat and risk assessment report before signing it off, and then the provincial head will go through the threat and risk assessment, including the recommendations that are included. And then if it happens that the provincial head is of the opinion that that particular threat and risk assessment need to be escalated at national level for their views and also for their concurrence, depending. That happens mainly with the high profile threat and risk assessment and also those that are rating the risk at the highest level. So that is what happened in this case. My office was approached by the provincial head of crime intelligence in Gauteng with a view of briefing me and presenting this draft threat and risk assessment for my concurrence and my input.
And what type of input would you have provided?
After a thorough briefing and also going through the draft threat and risk assessment, there were lots of red flags that pointed towards being a very serious, different threat and risk assessment. in the threat and risk assessment, even from the request by the senior state prosecutor, there were reference made to the syndicate, knowing that the syndicate, to sustain its activities, it needs the strong support of the criminal justice system, which is then also inclusive of South African Police Service. So looking at the request and looking at the draft report, then my office then was not comfortable with the recommendations that were included in that TRA. Hence, then the inputs that had to be included involves the registration of a counterintelligence investigation project.
Sorry to interrupt you, General. You described the TRA, or perhaps more the situation than the TRA, as open quote, different, close quote. What do you mean by that?
Thank you, Commissioner. The reference to different is most of the threat and risk assessment requests and investigations that will do, it will be mainly where the potential enemy, if I may put it in a layman's language, of that particular subject of investigation, it's someone that will have a plan to neutralize as soon as possible. So the use of unusual or different refers to the emphasis that was put from the request to the TRA itself that was talking to a syndicate. Now, a syndicate meant that we need to identify all other potential risk areas other than to concentrate on, for an example, other than to concentrate on the name that was mentioned in the request of a warrant officer, Dow. So we had to take it further and define the syndicate. So as then we are able, now, because the request and the TRA were making reference to a warrant officer Dow and the hit squad or hit men that were neutralized by then, it was going to be looked at as a usual TRA. But because of the emphasis and evidence of the involvement of a syndicate that has not yet been identified, that's why then we looked at it differently and we use a different as a weight.
And that was your call?
That was my call.
And so what did you recommend?
Then as I've reflected that I recommended that we register a counterintelligence investigation, which was going to focus mainly on the identification of the whole syndicate, because now to have countermeasures or protective measures that are directed towards Dow and those that are arrested already was not going to be effective according to my assessment. That is why then the decision to register the counterintelligence investigation to identify more of those that might be involved in the syndicate. In order to protect, as I reflected during my initial testimony, that a counterintelligence investigation is there to protect the operations of the South African Police Service. Now, the operations, they include both the operators or the operator as well as the activities. In this case, the investigation itself, that it becomes a success.
So was it through those investigations that you were able to identify Mr. Molefe as the suspect?
That is very correct. It was through the counter-intelligence investigation. That was now, maybe before I get straight to the answer of the question by the senior counsel, let me explain the second most important recommendation that I had included in the initial draft TRA presented to me by the provincial head of crime intelligence, Gauteng. We also recommended that after the counterintelligence investigation is registered, because we registered it as a project, after it has been registered, it had to be meshed with the Gauteng organized crime investigation. That was as a result of that, the TRA was as a result of, because it was going to feed the investigation itself. That was the birth of now what we have been referring to in this commission as Gauteng Organized Crime Investigation, GCI Ops, which is the combination of both counterintelligence investigations and organized crime investigation of Gauteng.
Thank you, General. I'm sorry to interrupt your evidence, but Chair, it's come to my attention that some of the annexures and contents of the witness's statement is being projected in public. I wasn't aware because it doesn't come up on the screens in front of me at all. But as a result, information that should not be public is being made public. And may I ask that there's no projection unless I request it?
May we take an adjournment, a brief adjournment, and I would like for us to meet the people who do the projection outside immediately, please.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Let's adjourn. Yes, Ms. Asip.
Thank you, Chair. General, so we left off, you were describing that it was at this point that you set up the GCI Ops. So just to recap, and correct me if I'm wrong, that comprises the counterintelligence investigation together with the organized crime team and the investigations in Gauteng, yes. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct, Commissioners. And maybe to add that once the operation reaches that level, before the registration, because now it was the combination of both the counterintelligence investigations coordinated at the divisional level, which is national office, and the investigation was at a lower level, provincial office, the organized crime investigation. So when you are in that situation, that's when then before you marry the two, then you brief the national commissioner, because now he's the one also in charge of all provinces and divisions.
And it's at this point that you request for members of the PKTT to be seconded to this operation. Is that right?
That is the correct, Commissioners, as I reminded the Commission that I was and still playing the dual role of both the project leader of PKTT as well as the Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence. So when then the GCI Ops was born, one of the shortcomings that we identified was the firstly, the approach itself. The investigation was following what I referred to, and I will still refer to it as traditional way of investigating, which is not suitable to investigate organized crime. So we had to then have a discussion with the provincial commissioner of where the PKTT is operating in the form of requesting the support. Because it was clear, because already some of the cartel members had been identified. Now, for that type of investigation, we needed to switch from the traditional way of investigation to the organized crime investigation, which I referred to as analysis-driven and prosecutorial-led investigation. Hence, then, beginning of November, we started those discussions and we agreed with the Provincial Commissioner KZN that we are going to request the analysts, all types of analysts.
Let me pause you just for a moment, General. When you say we had those discussions and we decided, who do you mean by we?
I'm referring to myself as the custodian of GCI Ops, as well as the project leader of the PKTT, with the Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal, where PKTT is based.
Okay, so you were discussing this with Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Okay, continue. I interrupted.
And then the first batch, or the batch of the experts that we had to assign to the GCI Ops from the PKTT were, as I've said, mainly experts. We had to get a ballistic expert because from the information gathered, it was clear that it will be another investigation support that the team will need. We also requested the digital forensic analyst who then was going to assist in the form of, because they are organized crime, it involves lots of gadgets that we are using on our daily lives. We also needed the call data analyst specialist because of the communication that needed then to be analyzed and be used as evidence. We also had to request 3 times crime scene investigators. By that time, it was clear from the information collected that there are lots of other crime scenes that might be needed the team to zoom into. Hence, then the crime scene experts had to be 3, so as then they are able to cover all those identified crime scenes. And it also had a lot to do with the reconstruction, because they were not fresh crime scenes. So it needed experts then that can be able to do the backdating of crime scene management to try and create the picture as to what happened 2 years ago in this particular place. Hence, then we had to request 3 of them. We also had to request the operational analyst. The operational analyst is the one that is collecting all the reports from different analysts and put them together to paint one picture. So it's an overall analyst that must be able to read and interpret the digital forensic analyst report, the ballistic report, the call data report. So we needed that center of an analysis. We also realized that we need the overall commander in the PKTT, we had developed suitable commanders that are able to understand all the different work that is done by experts. That's why we had to be specific, because in most cases in the police, you'll find a commander who's a specialist in visible policing commanding or crime investigation commanding. But the capability that we had built in the PKTT was for the commanders that are able to understand all that is expected to be done in a multidisciplinary. It must be a person who must be able to supervise the ballistic analyst, not by being an analyst, but by understanding what needs to be done. Hence, then we had to include in our list an operational commander. Also, the other aspect that we requested was the designated firearm officer that talks to the characteristics of most of the syndicates, more specifically this cartel, as I referred to last time, that one of the common denominators is for the cartel members to specialize in private security, having companies that are dealing with private security in order to collect as much firearms as possible. So for that, we needed an expert then in the firearm area, from the importation to registration to managing or controlling those firearms. And we also had to request an investigating officer who was going to join the two investigating officers that we had at the beginning. The purpose for that was twofold, was to assist them in the caseload, because the cases were increasing almost every day. But most importantly was to try and bring someone with the idea of the PKTT's method of operating to link with the two initial investigating officers, so as then we upgrade, maybe it's a wrong word to use, we upgrade them as quickly as possible to be at the level of the PKTT investigation. So hence then our request was for 10 of PKTT members. 10 is made up of those experts that I've explained.
Sorry, General, you said something I would like to explore. You talked about the level of PKTT investigation. And my question is, why did you need the analysts from the PKTT? Could you not get them from, say, Cape Town or within Gauteng or the Free State or Mpumalanga? Why did they specifically have to come from the PKTT?
Thank you, Commissioner. The main reason is we have seen what we have achieved within the PKTT. We will receive an expert from their respective units. Yes, they will be experts, but there will be lots of other areas that will have to work on to make them, to improve on their fields of expertise. The first one being, in the PKTT, we prioritize accountability at all levels, that you have to account for whatever that you are doing, which is normally lacking at unit or station level. And also the other difference is, as specialists are are operating within their fields, they only see themselves and what they have to do. There is no link where you link the different aspects so as then they can give you the desired results. And maybe to add, the other reason is the turnaround time of whatever that is happening in the PKTT. We have made it such that it's far much better than the normal SAPS units or stations are operating.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can you give us a practical example of this turnaround time that you refer to? What would be the difference in the PKTT versus what you say is not the same in the normal SAPS units?
Yeah, maybe so as I don't make the work of the commission difficult, I'll quote on one of the evidence that has been led here, which is the ballistic analysis. We put it such that the ballistic experts must understand that he or she is playing a supportive role of the investigation. The more time you spend on producing the report, you are delaying the investigator. So now, because each and every investigation has got a plan, so the physical worker, the investigating officer, would not want then to miss the targets and the timelines because of a particular specialist that is bringing his or her own turnaround time. I'll say where we saw it working for us was or is the ballistic analysis. The reason why we normally use it is in our report, we were flagging on ad hoc cases that will be generated from the intelligence-driven operations where we're looking for firearms. So in most cases, those operations will be on Fridays during the proper time, but on Fridays. So because we will be having a target that we have intelligence that is in possession of a firearm that was used in a particular case. So the work of a ballistic expert will start Friday midnight or Friday or Saturday morning when we come back with that firearm. The target is by Monday when we go to court to enroll the possession of unlicensed firearm. It's already linked with a main case that we're investigating. But all the turnaround times are made shorter because they have to fit the investigation plan. Whether it's called data analyst, if the request by the investigating team to the call data analyst is to quickly analyze the movement using the towers that will be given then a shorter turnaround time because it has to allow the taskings and the responsibility of the investigator to continue so as then the investigation plan is not delayed because of the expert. So it's one of the reasons why we had to tap on the tried and tested personnel from the PKTT. Our timeline, although it's not included in my affidavit, but if we look at the time the experts joined the GCI Ops, which was the 19th of November, and with a quick briefing for them to understand. And thereafter, they move separate ways to start doing what is relevant to their different fields, and they bring it back. And then by the 6th of December, we were ready for the takedown of the first target, which is roughly 2 weeks from the 19th to the 6th. That's another example.
So that's 19 November 2024 that these 10 members were seconded to GCI Ops and they began their work immediately.
Yes.
And you say they were recruited specifically for their expertise.
Yeah.
And you couldn't obtain that kind of expertise in Gauteng through the normal units. You've explained that.
Yeah, it's not, thank you, Commissioner. It's not that we could not, the expertise and experts are there, but the way of operating, starting from the attitude towards your work, which is more about, because I think I indicated previously that the way of the methodology in the PKTT is it's different from the normal way of doing things. Every day there are accounting sessions, every day. When you go out, maybe let me start by, you don't go out to do what you think and feel needs to be done. A day before, the team will sit, and then the operational analyst who's having all the information in front will then give the direction, which will give rise to the taskings that the investigation team must go and obtain statement from A and B. And the statement must contain these. And then when that comes, then the team will sit again to account and verify the feedback, whether it's talking to the. So we wanted, because we could see, as I've said, they were, because this now was a different operation with a counterintelligence investigation, as I reflected that one of the objectives of counterintelligence is to neutralize the threat. So you cannot then leave the threat being there for ages. So the quicker you neutralize the threat, then the quicker then the level of risk is going down, because there are lots of logistics that are put in place to make sure that the investigation and investigators are protected. So for us to achieve that, we undermined the experts that are all over the country, but we thought that we rather opt for the ready-made group that is suitable for what we have on hand.
General, why can't the mode of operation of the PKTT be replicated throughout the country? If at the end of the commission's life, that is in terms of the testimony led before it, we are satisfied that indeed the PKTT works better than the rest of SAPS. This is a question we may have to answer. That is, why can't that mode of operation be replicated throughout the country?
Thank you, Commissioner. In all our reports, that is included as one of the recommendations to the powers that be, that we recommend that this methodology is used as a benchmark to try and change the way we are investigating crime, because our traditional way, it's still suitable for normal crime. The assault commons, the assault GPH, but then when it comes to organized crime, the same traditional ways are not applicable. So we will recommend that with all our reports. There's been attempts, Commissioner, if I may divert from my affidavit, there's been attempt. There was a time, a year, where all provinces were requested to send a minimum of 6 members of SAPS to come and sit with the PKTT and learn. So we will have classes at night, and then during the day, we send them out with the teams for practicals. And it was a successful intervention or attempt. The problem started then when they had to go back and implement, because now those that are expected to implement or supervise the implementation were not understanding. You have trained 6 members from Limpopo. When they get back home to their commanders, they are going back to the old ways. Hence, then the second attempt was with Western Cape, where the National Commissioner instructed that the Provincial Commissioner himself be part of the team that will go and learn. One can say that showed some positive results because now the man in charge of the province has got that understanding to implement. So hence then we believe that this model of PKTT can be used as a transition from the normal or traditional way of investigating to this one that is suitable for the problems that we are facing as a country at this moment. We look at, there was a time when I think I had a session with the crime scene experts. Then the first question of the PKTT, the first question I asked as to how many are you countrywide? They gave me the number that is almost 2 times more than the police stations that we have. Then I said, then why then you have your units somewhere instead of having each station allocated the expert? So as we move, the second most important investigative aid that we will need to prioritize is called data analysis. Almost everybody is having gadgets nowadays, and the way it helps in terms of investigation and also fast tracking. So in trying to answer your question, Commissioner, I was very long, but I was trying to show that there's been attempts, but it won't be the first time that the PKTT model is recommended. It has been recommended by ourselves and then also accepted by some of the principals within SAPS.
At the beginning of your response, you said you made recommendations to the open code powers that be closed code. Who are those powers?
Thank you, Commissioner. I was referring to, in terms of accountability, the PKTT is reporting firstly to the Provincial Steering Committee that is made up of the top management of those stakeholders that are within the province. So when we submit the report, we include that recommendation so as they can see if they can do something. Same applies to national.
I'm not sure that that answers my question. You said that you have made recommendations to the powers that be that the mode of operation of the PKTT be adopted nationwide. Did I understand you correctly?
Yes.
Yes. Now my question is, who are the powers that be that you made your recommendations to? I would imagine it must be at national level.
Thank you, Commissioner. I started at provincial level. I was moving on to say even within the National Steering Committee meeting chaired by the National Commissioner, even when we are submitting the periodical reports to the National Commissioner, we will include that recommendation. Even when we have to submit the report to the interministerial or even the Ministry of Police, we will include that recommendation. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the initiative of Western Cape team led by the Provincial Commissioner was recommended by the Ministry when then that report was tabled.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So you would have made the recommendation to the Minister, to the National Commissioner, as well as other ministers within the Interministerial Committee that was having oversight of the PKTT.
Yes, Commissioner.
So that was a small diversion. Let's return to where we were, the secondment of the team, and particularly because of the importance of the working method of this team that led to the arrest of Mr. Molefe on the 6th. And that brings you to paragraph 107 of your statement. Now, General, you'll see that the next few pages, all the way up to paragraph 124, describes the events that took place on the 6th of December when Mr. Molefe was being arrested, or what you call in Hollywood style, takedown. So that's what these paragraphs describe, the takedown of Mr. Molefe. Now, we've heard from quite a number of witnesses already. The Commission has heard from many witnesses, witness A, B, C, Captain Wanda, Captain Kruger, a range of people right until yesterday. So that's been detailed for the Commission, the details of all of those events. I don't think it's necessary for us to go through these paragraphs in detail. However, I would like you to explain some things for the Commission, including why you describe these events as interference. And I just want to begin by asking you whether you had overall coordination of this operation that was taking place on 6 December.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Maybe to give a little bit of background to the part that the Senior Counsel is directing me to talk to, I'll link it with my last statement that said when the experts were brought in from the 19th of November, and then by the 6th of December, we were ready for the first takedown. And then the investigation with the assistance of all these experts made it possible for us to obtain the warrant of arrest of Mr. Katiso Molefe on the 5th of December. That's when then we had to start preparing for the takedown or the arresting of Molefe the following day. Then, which was then on the 6th of December. So what we did, because within, as I've said, this is a GCI Ops, which has got a lot of intelligence activities within. So there are continuous threat and risk assessments that are done, even when you plan for the takedowns. There will be a lot of pre-activities that will take place. Hence, then, maybe before I get to the 6th, I must reflect that and remind the commissioners that we had carried also that kidnapping case or investigation that was assigned to the team also during around October, November, during the same time. So we had collected a lot of intelligence and information that needed us to conduct then the search and questioning of a suspected person involved. Hence, then on our planning for the 6th operation, we had to include also that part of searching and questioning an identified target on the kidnapping case. So we had to do that because we had to mobilize additional resources for the 6th. So in order for us not to remobilize the following week for the search and questioning, then we decided to combine both the operations to take place on the 6th.
So the two operations you're referring to then is the takedown of Mr. Molefe and then the questioning of Mr. Madlanga. So both took place on the 6th of December, and that was by design.
By design, not a mistake. It was planned to be like that, maybe to add why we had to mobilize more resources. When I was explaining the first batch of experts that came to assist, there were minus the tried, I'll always use these tried and tested combat experts that we utilize in the PKTT. So for this particular operation now on the 6th, we had to also get the support from the PKTT for the combat team to come and assist, because during the takedown, the first concept is to make the place safe for an investigating officer to enter and search and do whatever that needs to be done, and the experts from forensic also to come and do whatever that they need to do. But the other aspects that maybe commissioners I might add whilst I'm there, we had to mobilize extra special task force members from outside the province of Gauteng. The main reason was for a threat assessment that had been done on the second target or second operation, which was the search and questioning of Mr. Madlanga, based on the profiles that we have done of his more than 20 protectors that are former special task force members. So we were not going to be able to do our work if we bring the combat team that is less trained than what we were going to face.
Thank you, General. Chair, it's 11:02. I'm just bringing that to your attention.
I hope those watching did not see me shaking my head when Commissioner Malui whispered to me. Let's adjourn and resume at 11:20.